A pleasant day, everyone. We are honored and privileged to be part of the third International Research Conference on Teacher Education and Indigenous Peoples Education, sponsored by the PNU North Luzon. The title of the published study that we would like to share is Experiences of Teachers Teaching Grade 4 Pupils with Mother Tongue-Based Multilingual Education, Inputs to Policy Development and Teacher Training for MTBMLE. In this, we have Dr. Adeline M. Costello Abrea, Dr. Randy L. Rubles, and yours truly, Elvi Chari L. Ortua, lead researchers. All of us are faculty from PNU Mindanao. This study has been conducted because PNU as the National Center for Teacher Education has a vital role to play in the formulation, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of curricular reforms like the K-12 curriculum and important language issues in the Philippine educational system. The envisioned result of this study is to serve as baseline data for DepEd to bank on in terms of monitoring and assessment of their MTB-MLE programs. So let me begin first by stating the rationale. Language is the vehicle in transmitting the intended message to the receiver. It plays a crucial role in unifying a vast and complex notion and provides individuals with outlets for developing diverse skills and abilities, according to NAF 2010. So teachers and learners must understand each other linguistically for communication to be effective. According to Modenda 2017, for one to send and ensure that the message is received, interpreted correctly, and understood properly, common language is necessary. Thus, the prevalent use of mother tongue is now evident in schools. Mother tongue is now viewed by many as one with a powerful effect in bringing out the potential of children in the learning process. That is why since 1953, this has always been attested by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or by the UNESCO. In the Philippines, through its Department of Education in 2009, it issued an order requiring the use of the learner's first language as the medium of instruction in all the disciplines of kindergarten to grade 3, except for Filipino and English. And in 2013, the upgrade toward the K-12 basic education vis-a-vis MTB-MLE has finally become a law through the Enhanced Basic Education Act. The MTB-MLE implementation in the country has an assumption that there will be a development of strong literacy as the learners can easily relate their knowledge and skills to their own experiences, according to MTB-MLE Network 2016. However, despite the number of studies stating the positive effects of MTB-MLE implementation, a number of studies also say otherwise. So in the study of Piper, Zowilkowski, Kwayomba, and Uyanga 2018, it showed that the learners assigned in mother tongue group had somewhat lower mathematics outcomes. Also, in Amanya 2017, in her study, it pointed out that children taught in the mother tongue demonstrated a decline in English literacy level. Hence, the MTB-MLE implementation worldwide has been found facing similar set of challenges according to Ball 2011. And implementers in multilingual contexts face the additional impact of linguistic diversity, which makes the program implementation more difficult. Mathematics and science are parts of the K-12 curriculum that provide essential concepts and life skills needed by the Filipino learners to proceed to the next stage in their life. So when students are already in the grade 4 level, these two subjects are taught in English as the language of teaching and learning. And the question now is, who can tell us further the experiences of this scenario? So these are the teachers. Teachers who are at the center of language policy implementation are considered to be essential role players in any educational program, according to Sentanda 2014. So as key persons, they can provide a picture of their experiences in dealing with the grade 4 pupils with MTB MLE exposure transition to English as the language of learning and teaching in mathematics and science. So technically, these were the questions that we addressed in the study. The first one is, what is the language diversity profiles of the particular schools, classrooms, and individual teachers in order to obtain a sense of the extent and nature of multilingualism in various types of schools in the Philippines? Second, what are the teachers' attitudes and perception towards the current language policy and the practices as compared to the previous RBEC curriculum? Third, what are the problems and challenges met by the grade 4 in transitioning pupils with MTB MLA exposure to English? Fourth, what are the teachers' perceptions that contribute to success or failure of the transition to English as language of learning and teaching and the continuation of learners in the education system? And lastly, what are the classroom practices and educational strategies used by the grade 4 teachers to facilitate the transition to English as language of learning and teaching? So overall, we have 5 research questions. So to answer our questions, this was the methodology that we implemented. The research design was generally phenomenological, but we used 3 modes of data gathering: the survey questionnaire for all the grade 4 teachers handling mathematics and science in sample schools. Secondly, classroom observation for selected teachers, classes to be observed. Lastly was the focus group discussion for teachers whose classes were observed. In selecting the participants, we had convenient purposive sampling. We selected 6 schools from 3 divisions of the Caraga region, particularly Agusan del Sur, Surigao del Sur, and Bislig City. One small and one big school are identified in each division. A school is considered small if it has only 1 section per grade level. A big school and a small school were identified from Prosperidad and Talacugon respectively in Agusan del Sur division, in the municipality of Cantilan in Surigao del Sur, and in Bislig City. The dominant language used in Prosperidad is Agusanong Binisaya, while Talakugnon for Talacugon, Agusan del Sur, Kamayo for Bislig City, and Kangtilangnon for the identified schools in Surigao del Sur. The grade 4 teachers were identified as respondents as they are the teachers who handle and manage students who are transitioned from mother tongue to English in science and mathematics. 18 teachers answered the survey questionnaires, and from them, 14 were observed and participated in the focus group discussion. 3 instruments were used in the study: survey questionnaire, observation notes form, and researcher-made interview guide. Questionnaire was utilized to gather data on the participant's profile and to initially describe their perceptions on the mother tongue-based multilingual education implementation and their experiences and problems met in the teaching of mathematics and science to grade 4 pupils exposed to MTB-MLE. The observation notes form focused on teaching strategies to teach the lessons and learner responses. Now, how about in the data collection? So first, we sought the approval of the school's division superintendents to conduct the study. And then upon approval, the researchers then visited the identified schools for orientation with the participants. Schedule of observation of classes was likewise set within the first quarter of the school year, as it is where challenges in the transition may be evident. A total of 18 classroom observations and 5 focus group discussions were conducted after the observation period. Focus group discussion was conducted separately per school except for the combined FGD for schools in Bislig City. Using a guided observation protocol, observation of classes was focused on the educational practices and strategies teachers employed to transition the medium of instruction from mother tongue to English. During the audio recorded focus group discussion conducted for about 2 hours, participants were asked to answer open-ended questions. The responses were the basis for follow-up questions. Per permission from the teachers and students, pictures were taken to document the observation. In the data analysis, frequency count was used to describe the profile of the participants and schools. Mean and standard deviation were utilized to describe the perception of the participants, experiences, and problems met based on the survey questionnaire. On the qualitative part, the responses were transcribed and analyzed by the researchers. They applied to winnow the data. They applied to winnow the data where they identified similar ideas and recurring themes from the responses. These keywords served as the basis for the development of the different themes which became part of the findings of the study. So for the findings up to recommendation, this will be continued by Dr. Randy L. Robles. Thank you so much.
Good day, everyone. I am Randy L. Robles, and I'm going to present to you the findings up to the recommendations of this research. For the findings, in terms of the language profiles of the schools and teachers, about 72% of the participants have taught the subjects for at least 5 years. This experience includes teaching the subject not only in grade 4, but in higher grades as well. The MTB-MLE has been implemented for 8 years. This means that the majority of the participants have taught the subject before and during the implementation of the MTB-MLE. Thus, they can provide a comparison between the current language policy, the MTB-MLE, and that of the previous curriculum, which is the RBEC. Despite being located in the same provinces, the places have different majority L1 of the pupils. This profile depicts the language diversity in these particular provinces. Furthermore, of the 18 participants, 15 have the same L1 as that of the pupils. This implies that not all teachers share the same L1 with their pupils. This situation may spell difficulty on the part of these teachers in helping transition pupils from MT to English. In terms of the perception of the language policy implementation, participants are neutral on the idea that the use of MT in the lower grades provide a bridge in learning mathematics or science when instruction shifts to English, and on pupils being able to transfer the skills or knowledge they acquired from L1 to L2. They perceive that the teaching of mathematics or science in English is a challenge and the impact of MT in bridging learning is not felt. Teachers with experience in teaching in the previous curriculum claimed that pupils who did not have an MT orientation were easy at grasping concepts in science and mathematics because these subjects were taught in English in the lower grades. If GD exposed that generally teachers are not inclined to believing that the use of MT in lower grades would provide the presumed benefits to the learners. They suggest that just like in the RBEC, mathematics or science should be taught in English in the lower grades, and MT should be taught as a subject only and not as a medium of instruction to teach mathematics or science. For the problems and challenges met by the participants, participants experienced that it takes time to cover the topics and noted that pupils have limited English vocabulary. When reading, pupils have the tendency to read words in empty and can hardly answer comprehension check questions. They further identified spelling, reading comprehension, and solving word problems in mathematics as problematic areas. Mathematics is a challenge since pupils are used to count and name numbers in MT, even spell the English names of numbers in MT. These problems already existed prior to MTBMLE implementation, but are perceived by teachers to have become serious with the current language policy. For the classroom practices and educational strategies, teachers rely heavily on translation to facilitate the discussion. They initially present things in English, and based on the pupil's response, verbal or nonverbal, they code switch and or translate the concepts presented in English to MT, which requires familiarity of the teacher on the MT of pupils. Other teachers integrate in the teaching of reading the concepts and terms used in mathematics or science to enhance the vocabulary of pupils and develop their reading and comprehension skill. For the conclusions, for teachers, mother tongue posed more of a problem, a barrier instead of being a bridge to learning concepts when taught in English. The highlighted importance of the MTBMLE is it boosts the self-confidence of the pupils in expressing themselves, though in MT. Teachers perceive the teaching of mathematics or science, a grade for pupils, as challenging because of the limited English vocabulary of pupils, which leads to problems on spelling, reading comprehension, and solving word problems. These perceptions may be attributed to the lack of knowledge of the MTB MLE implementation from kinder to grade 3 and the transition program from grade 4 to grade 6. The translation is the most common strategy used by teachers to transition pupils from MT to English. With that, aspects for training on MTBMLE for the transition teachers are identified together with the suggestion of integration of MTBMLE concepts and transition strategies to the professional education courses of the TEIs. And for the recommendations, certain measures be implemented by the authorities of the education system, both in in-service and pre-service, such as training and or retraining of teachers on MTBMLE implementation with emphasis on how to transition pupils from MT to English with an understanding of how children learn language and content literacies. Parents' perception and experiences on their children being exposed to MTBMLE can provide a much clearer picture of the phenomenon under study. Hence, it is recommended that a study should be conducted with the inclusion of parents. And finally, since the study selected the school within the convenient reach of the researchers, it is encouraged to conduct similar studies in small and rural schools. The findings of the study are essential sources of information that can be utilized by the curriculum developers in enhancing the curriculum. And that's all for our research presentation. Thank you very much. Daghang salamat.